Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, continuing our Empire of Man faction focus in Warhammer the Old World, up to the last part now of the characters section of the army list. So let's take a look at who's left. First up is the Lector of Sigmar. Good weapon skill, initiative and leadership, but low ballistic skill and wounds. It's a regular infantry character, 25 by 25. Obviously, if he is mounted, it becomes regular cavalry. Hand weapon and light armor with 6+ is the basic equipment, but does have the option for additional hand weapons, great weapons, shield, and heavy armor. And it may be mounted on a Barded Warhorse, Empire Warhorse, or a War Altar of Sigmar, and can take up to 100 points of magic items. So, special rules, gets magical attacks and magical resistance -1, but does get Prayers of Sigmar. So during the command sub-phase, the character may attempt to invoke a single prayer by making a leadership test. So you can choose Hammer of Sigmar until your next start of turn sub-phase. This model, its mount, and a single friendly unit within command range may re-roll any rolls to hit or to wound of a natural 1 during the combat phase. That's pretty nice. Re-rolling hits or wounds, that's quite nice. Shield of Faith. Until your next start of turn subphase, this model and a single friendly unit in command range has a 5+ ward save against wounds suffered in the shooting phase. A little bit more situational, dependent upon the army that you're up against as to how much shooting they've got and so on, but could be quite interesting, particularly if you're up against a lot of war machines who have quite good AP. And then you've got Soulfire, a single enemy unit. This model is engaged in combat with, immediately suffers D6, strength 3 hits, AP -2 with flaming attacks and magical attacks. So again, not bad. I mean, D6, the strength a little bit low, but D6 hits could be quite good. AP -2, and does just add to a combat result, we think, because that is when you're in combat. So again, a little bit situational because the last one there is reliant upon you being in combat, and the second one there is dependent upon how many shooting attacks. But the Hammer of Sigmar, and you get to choose which one you want. The Hammer of Sigmar there, pretty useful. So in most cases, I'd prefer to take a Priest over a Lector just because of the cost. The fact I do like my generals of the Empire. I do like to take the Grand Master or Chapter Master if I'm taking lots of cavalry. But the Priest does give the same buffs you see as the Lector, and it's 50% of the points cost. And essentially, the price you're paying is a slightly reduced stat profile. So if you're taking the Priest or the Lector for the buffs, the Priest is definitely a better option. To be honest, I'd really only consider taking a Lector if I wanted the War Altar in my army list, and there are better options for combat characters. Equipment-wise, as normal, I'd opt to go for heavy armor and shield. I do tend to like to go for the best armor save I can get. It's generally quite cheap. Most often, keep him on foot in a unit of greatswords or state troops. Though being on a horse in a cavalry-focused army is definitely viable, and in a unit of knights would also work. You just got to make sure in terms of the rules that it does suit with that unit. Overall, like I say, I do prefer them on foot. Both the Prayers of Sigmar and Ulrich have good value though in my army list. I think I would generally opt for those of Ulrich, but there is good options there. Magic items, Jade Amulet's quite nice to make the Lector immune to Killing Blow, especially given he's quite a pricey character, and if he's going to end up in a duel, for example, then he's probably up against a character who's pretty good, and often would have Killing Blow, for example, and so being immune to that can be quite nice. So next up, Priest of Sigmar, same as the Lector there, is regular infantry or becomes regular cavalry if mounted. Infantry base size, 25 by 25. Equipment, all the same. And again, all the same options as the Lector, but cannot be mounted on a War Altar of Sigmar and only gets 50 points of magic items. So again, all the same special rules and all the same prayers. So I like the warrior priests, and would always look to try and take at least one, in some cases two, as the buffs from the prayers are good. unless playing narratively would include a Priest of Sigmar and a Priest of Ulrich. That would give you access to all the prayers if you are taking two. Though, as I said, I do prefer the prayers of Ulrich slightly more for my style of army list. Equipment-wise, I would opt for heavy armor and shield again. And again, like the Lecter, on foot in a unit of infantry generally being a preferred thing. Magic items, if I'm taking a priest, I'm really going for the buffs that he's going to give, going for those prayers, right? So I would generally look to try and keep the priest cheap, right? Go for a cheap priest and focus on getting the benefit of the prayers, buffing units or doing a bit of damage or whatever. So overall, I think that's a better option than really tooling them up. If you're going to go for a really tooled up character and you want to go down that sort of priest route, then you're better off taking the higher level Lecter in this case. Next up is the High Priest of Ulrich. So this is kind of the opposite side to that Lecter of Sigmar. So again, similar stats. Regular cavalry if he's mounted, regular infantry on foot. If he's on foot, it's 25 by 25 mil base. And again, all the same equipment options, points for magic items, and so on. The difference is in the prayers. So you get magical attacks, magical resistance 1. But the prayers of Ulrich, you get Battle Howl. So until your next start of turn sub-phase, when this model and a single friendly unit within command range make a charge roll, you may add D3 to the result. This prayer affects infantry and cavalry only. So that's pretty nice, right? That's pretty nice to help with the charges. Winter's Chill. Until your next start of turn subphase, any enemy model that directs its attacks against this model, its mount, and a single friendly unit it has joined during the combat phase must re-roll hit rolls of 6. Come up against a unit with Killing Blow. Come up against a unit that has bonuses when hitting on 6, not Killing Blow, that's wounds of 6. Hitting on 6, that's really nice. So unlike the Sigmar prayers, these have utility across all different factions you might play against. And you finally have Wrath of Winter. So until your next start of turn subphase, when this model, its mount, and any unit it has joined gains the multiple wounds 2 special rule. So that is awesome. Being able to make your unit have the multiple wounds 2 rule, if you're coming up against monstrous infantry, cavalry, or anything like that, or even if you get charged by, let's suppose you get charged by a dragon, you're able to attack back, and you can, give your unit that multiple wounds 2, and then that's the entire unit getting it. So that's just going to double the amount of potential damage output. So I really like the prayers of Ulrich. I think they're much more flexible and useful than the prayers of Sigmar overall. As just before, in terms of taking a priest versus a high priest, just like the Lecter, again, if you're just looking for buffs, go for the priest. It's 50% cheaper. Equipment-wise, heavy armor and shield, again, keeping them on foot is my preference, and I prefer the prayers of Ulrich. In terms of magic items, Jade Amulet for immune to Killing Blow. So again, just like the Priest of Sigmar, again, all the same stats. So troop type, regular infantry, regular cavalry if on mounted, base size for infantry, 25 by 25, and then all the same options, less magic item points. So the same prayers we just went through for the High Priest. But then in terms of where things are, as I said, I prefer to go for go for a normal priest rather than a high priest. You just keep them cheap. No magic items. Again, like the Priest of Sigmar, exactly the same case as that. Take a cheap priest and focus on getting the benefits of those prayers and maximizing it for the way that the army list has been built. Okay, the last character in the Empire army list is the Engineer. Good ballistic skill, as you can imagine, low weapon skill, wounds, initiative, attacks, and leadership. A troop type is actually regular infantry. Character, base size 25 by 25, and equipment is a hand weapon. Now, option-wise, you get the grenade-launching blunderbuss, the Hochland long rifle, the repeater handgun, repeater pistol, pigeon bombs, and light armor, and 50 points of magic items. Now, if you have watched the first episode, we did cover what the grenade-launching blunderbuss and Hochland long rifle do. Overall, I actually prefer the Hochland long rifle for the engineer. He's often going to be babysitting war machines, so that 36-inch range is really nice, bearing in mind that mobility is limited, and you want him near war machines. So the grenade-launching blunderbuss at 24 inches, still not bad. So maybe if you were babysitting a Hellblaster volley gun, that would be useful. But if you're doing anything else, then I'd prefer to go with the Hochland long rifle. So he gets clouds of smoke and soot. This model is considered to be behind full cover when it is within 3 inches of a war machine. Also, Master of Ballistics. Once per turn, a friendly Empire war machine that is within command range can either use this model's ballistic skill or re-roll a single artillery dice. That's really good and really, really useful. As someone who trends towards gunline style armies, as probably born in Nuln, I often take multiple war machines, and therefore there is always likely to be at least one engineer in my army list, and as the joint cheapest character in the army list, sometimes two. Equipment wise, I would opt for the Hochland long rifle, babysitting a long range artillery piece. Grenade launching blunderbuss if you're with the Hellblaster volley gun, as I said, as well as light armor in that case. So normally I wouldn't be opting to take light armor, but I would take light armor if I was going with the blunderbuss and the Hellblaster, because at 24-inch range you're now well within range of enemy archers and that sort of thing. Overall, I never recommend taking the pigeon bombs. It's fun as a mechanic, but their output for points is low, and they're half the price of another engineer. Right, so I'd rather take another engineer and for additional 50% points without a doubt. And again, magic items, none. I like to keep these characters cheap, just focused on buffing those war machines, utilising that ballistic skill or the reroll of the artillery dice, incredibly useful. And then getting the extra benefit of something like that Hochland long rifle could be quite interesting. So engineers, I really like them. If you're going to take any type of war machine, I definitely recommend taking an engineer. I think they're really, really useful. And if you're going to take an engineer, say that Hochland long rifle is a really good accompanying piece, especially with its ability to snipe at characters or particular models within a unit. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the characters section. We've now covered all the characters in the army list. However, what we haven't done is we haven't covered the mounts that we've talked about. So in the next episode, we'll be looking at all the different mount options, what they have, what the rules are, and everything else. So we'll be covering that next before we move on to core. Hope you've enjoyed this video though. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more content, please hit that subscribe button. It's free for you to do. It takes a few seconds for you to do, but it's a massive, massive deal for me. And thank you to all those who have already subscribed. You've been watching the Ghost Owl, and tune back in as we take a look at the different mount options available to characters for the Empire of Man.